me speak, although I did say some, which kind of got a little mad, but anyways, you know, the reasoning for denying without prejudice was the reasons we discussed before. The basis of the motion to deem doesn't exist anymore because they're not gonna pump well 3A. But that leads to the next development, and that is that the board voted to issue a show cause order to Invenergy why the docket should not be suspended. And the reason they issued it is because once the process begins, there's strict timelines on when things happen. They can have a hearing, in response, etc. And because Invenergy's application is not complete because of the source of water has not been resubmitted, there was concern, as you know, this board expressed, that we would have sufficient time to respond, you know, and we move to intervene if necessary. So, so I thought it was pretty fair and intelligent move by the board to move to suspend the docket. And they issued a show cause order last week. I think they had like 10 days to respond. So we haven't gotten Invenergy's response yet, but I would be surprised if they really opposed it because it's really fair to everybody. In other words, they get time to put together whatever their water proposal is and have it complete, submit it to all interested parties, the cities and town, you know, all the different town boards and departments, and us, of course. And then everybody have an opportunity to digest it, and then they can reinstate the docket and then go with appropriate timeframes. So it seems to make a lot of sense. By the same token, if you know Invenergy does not, you know, submit and complete the application, at some point I assume the FSB would just move to dismiss it, not just leave it suspended, you know, indefinitely. So that's what happened. So I want to report to you on that. So I think it's good. It takes the pressure off us, and we'll be able to, you know, have the opportunity to digest whatever that proposal may be, if and when they submit it. So that's all I have on that, unless there's any questions.
Question, Rich.
Yeah.
If when Socket does decide to jump in bed with this energy, and they sell water, do they have the authority, or does the state force us to have to let that flow through our pipes? Or would it have to be a dedicated pipeline from Woonsocket's water source right to their power plant?
Well, it'd have to be dedicated, it couldn't go on us.
Okay, I've been asked that.
The state, well, I don't think the DOH would allow that.
That's good to know.
I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, on the one hand, the State Water Resources Board has authority over water districts outside a jurisdictional boundary supplying water. So I believe it would have to go to the State Water Resources Board. What power the State Water Resources Board would have in terms of the location of the pipeline or the path of that pipeline, I can't answer that question, including whether or not they could, you know, force us to allow that to tie into our system. I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you.
What would it be, needed at both ends or something?
Well, I think that what would happen is it would be metered at this end, and then we would wholesale, you know, we would pay wholesale and we would retail it out. I mean, this kind of dovetails with the whole, you know, PUD, you know, situation. Whether or not the PUD wants to stay in the water business. I mean, at this point, you know, we could, you know, use that water to be the wholesale and retail out to everybody. I mean, in Pasco, and we'd also have more than enough water to supply the entire town, should we be able to, you know, expand the distribution system a little at a time. As a matter of fact, since you won't have to build any more wells, the money that you would put aside for now, for, you know, future supply and development, you know, could be applied to expand the system, to provide water throughout the town. But in answer to your question, I don't know that. And it's premature too, because, you know, they haven't submitted a plan and the FSB hasn't approved it.
But I can't answer that specific question.
May I ask a question? If what
Mr. Bisson is saying that it would have to be directly piped to the location, how would it be available to the town?
That's a very good question.
There wouldn't be anything available if you're talking about metering it at both ends or even at one end. They wouldn't really have. But there wouldn't be any availability for water for the town if in fact it's going directly. as
Well,
you said.
he's saying it might not, they might have that option. I don't see it happen, but
Tell me what
you
that
never-
would, what would that look like?
Well,
Construction wise?
a line, if I have to go down 102 and South Main Street, so I
Just dig up the whole road.
Yeah.
Go under the
Well, that's what
ground.
they did for the other power plant,
Yeah, I know.
in Woonsocket. Nobody said it had to be that, but
That's not-
So you
Mr.
have
Chairman?
that same-
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may say, my name is Doug Jolly, I'm a resident in town here and in the district. With due respect to the council, it seems to me that it would be better to have the EFSB deny the application now because of non-compliance by the applicant. And simply, they have not complied with the requirements of the process. They haven't got a water proposal, and they have deadlines that they're not meeting. It would seem to me that our position, or your position, should be to request the EFSB deny the application rather than suspend it.
You don't have standing before the FSB to make that request. That's my understanding, is that correct, Mr. Snow?
That's correct.
We don't have, by the FSB denying our intervenor status, we don't have standing before them to make that request. The town has made that request, because they have standing based on the fact they're intervenors. Same thing with the Conservation Law Foundation. They have also made that statement because they have standing before the board.
Okay, thank
This
you,
committee does not have standing before the FSB to make that request.
thank you.
Mr. Sinapo, you said earlier the board, you meant the siting board, not this board, correct?
Yeah.
You were referring to the siting board, made the decision.
No, when I first heard, you guys had expressed concern in the past that,
Do you mean us or do you mean?
well, in one sense, when you said, you had expressed concern in the past that if they were to change, the source of water and it should negatively impact us, whether we would have enough opportunity to respond to it. So I said this board had expressed concern about that we wouldn't have enough time to respond should there be a change. So that's the only time I was referencing Harrisville.
Well, it seems to me that what's being discussed right now is probably a plan you're going to discuss with Invenergy to some degree, about the Woonsocket water coming to Harrisville wholesale, and you'd be able to sell it retail, possibly throughout Harrisville and Pasco. Maybe you can get rid of Pasco Utility District at the same time, and sell the water to the power plant. That sound right?
I think there's two options. You pump, you put a line directly to the power plant, or you put it into our system, and those are the two options.
It's conjecture. There's been no discussions have been had of it.
No, but I think Mr. Sinapi is kind of prepping the board for one of these two options, that you have a choice between one of those two. But I think you have a third option, and the third option is just to stand firm like you did last time, and say, we don't want water coming into our town from out of town. That water is not gonna be mixed in with our aquifer and our drinking water. And I think Harrisville's doing a wonderful job supplying the water all over town already.
But the only way that option would happen would be if somebody above us, did you say water resources?
Say what are we supposed to do?
Well,
It goes, Mr. Stoppy made the comment that this board would potentially request intervenor status if their plan for water would negatively impact the Harrisville Fire District.
But who is making that judgment as to how it will negatively impact our water?
Should be
Who's
one-
doing that
should
assessment?
be any-
But this board has the authority to act on behalf of the Harrisville Fire District. So when it is presented, whatever it is,
Mhm.
if it's gonna have an impact on this district, based on the EFSB's requirements to
Well,
intervene.
Well, I think it's very important to
forward
have it
doing.
say
We haven't been
something.
asked to do anything, right?
No, but it's on the floor.
Exactly.
And so, you know, I think to be an intervener, okay, especially if water is coming anywhere near you, is the right decision to make. I don't think this gentleman should be the guy intervening on your behalf, however.
Exactly.
I think it should be a private counsel.
Thank you.
I think there is a conflict of interest there.
Yep.
And I mean, any appearance of a conflict of interest, be on the safe side. And so that you know that your way of life is not interrupted by someone else's opinions. Also, I would think that, or I should say, the interesting thing about the fire district, Pasco Utility District, as well as the Harrisville Fire District, isn't just a blur of space. It's actually by meets and bounds. And so this district is very easy to delineate. And it's a special district, actually, and most towns and cities don't have what you have. And so you're somewhat of a little sovereign territory within the state of Rhode Island and also within the town of Harrisville. And I think that you do have a right to say whether even pipeline water comes into your district might have a negative effect on you, and you have a say in that. For someone to say that you have someone over you, you know, we all have someone over us, but nevertheless, the state doesn't usurp your authority in the fire district. That lies right here in state legislation. So that needs to be looked at very carefully.
And possibly
Figure
by
out that.
outside counsel as well. You really need to look at that.
Amen.
I have a question. Do we even know if Woonsocket has the water capability to provide what this plant is asking for? Is there a Snoppy?
As far as I know, they got plenty of water.
That's what I heard too.
Be straight with us, Mr. Sinapi. Have you been discussing this in Energy at all?
Nope.
Well, the city of Woonsocket? You just pulled this plan out by yourself?
I didn't come up with a plan, I just told you what the two options are. I
We-
mean, it's kind of common sense.
We have engineers, and we're trying to figure out the same thing you are.
Thank you.
They sound like pretty solidified options at this point. That's why you
This
think
is,
there's something plucked
water,
out of
it's
the
a
air.
very scientific thing. I mean, you can
Right.
you move water one way through a pipeline.
Right.
What are the options for that pipeline? It's a direct line, or they save money by piping it through us. It's just one or the other. It's no
But again,
conversations.
Right, David, but you as the water district, fire district, and as the town, have the right to say, no, you're not putting these pipes in our road.
And
But
it
they're
goes-
not state roads.
And it goes back to the
No,
process
so it's
would
not even
be,
in our
the
district.
proper process would be, once the plan is issued,
Yeah.
once the plan is presented, we have the option to request intervenor status if it's going to be a situation where no other entity is representing us before the FSB.
See, what I like about the Harrisville Fire District, is that you're a nonprofit organization, so it's not about money to you. Okay, it's about preserving our way of life in Burrville. You know, even though Harrisville Fire District is Harrisville, Pasco Utility District is Pasco, it's all Burrville. We're all one and the same. And so it's protecting our way of life and securing a way of life for our grandchildren and their grandchildren as well. And so when we look at the power plant, it's no, if you wanna argue with me about it, you should, you're welcome
I
to
don't
do
think
that.
the point is, there's no argument, because
Okay, because
but you're echoing what we've already had discussions about.
Okay.
I just wanna add something here. We all drink this water, and some of us, our families have been drinking it longer than others. And all I can tell you is we're doing our best up here to try to make sure that as far as the water goes, it's the best water we can have. I mean, we provide the best fire protection for Harrisville. So we're all up here. I mean, there were no hidden agendas here. What Woonsocket does with their water, I don't know. All we can make sure, and that's where we went ahead and paid the money to have Stantec's report done. If well 3A in Pasco was opened up, what kind of effect would that have on our water? So that's the kind of work we do. We have to make sure, in this case, to protect our water for whatever's going into the ground or whatever they're going to be doing, whatever's going all I can tell you is, and I've worked with everybody here long enough to know that, that's our goal. We're not up here trying to sneak a power plant in. And quite frankly, sometimes I resent some of the remarks people are making. We're up here just trying to do what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
And,
We appreciate
So-
that.
so, you know, what somebody's got planned, we have no way of knowing.
So I understand that, so may I ask a question as the board? Do you have a contingency plan in the event that this should happen? Are you preparing yourself for the possibility that this could be the case?
What could be the case?
The Woonsocket sells the water to Invenergy and pipes it through the streets. What contingency plan could you do?
I don't know.
We've had discussions in the executive session.
Just one simple question, Mr. Chairman. My brother, Mr. Snoppy, here offered two different choices. I was wondering if those would be the same if the water was purchased from a private company such as Hollis and Sand and Gravel in Slatersville, where they have a permit to sell water to Ocean State Power at this time, but it's not necessarily potable water. Would it be the same two options, or would that be a different animal?
It's not potable water, it will never go through our system.
Yeah.